Hi, it's Dan Harris, and welcome back to the Ironbird Podcast, where we explore the intricacies of private aviation with the industry's leading voices. Okay, Eric, we'll start with a question and then we'll get into some more stuff. But what are some of the requests that you get, some of the craziest requests that you have to tell these private travelers or airplane owners no to?
Well, that's not in our vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
I will often tell assistants where the client, request will come in. Can you do it? And I'll say, yes. I don't know how yet, but we'll get it done.
Yeah.
We got a request from one of our clients who's been a fun, wonderful person to work for about 10 years, Mark Wahlberg. And Mark went ahead and his assistant said, can you go ahead and download on my iPad every Mark Wahlberg movie, every TV show, every underwear ad, every music video ever been on, and just delete everything else.
And just have that?
Just have that. And then we went the extra mile and we found out every magazine cover that he'd been in as well. So we had no idea what Mark was up to. So it turns out afterwards we got a big thank you. Mark had an old friend who'd stepped down. It was the first time on his jet. And he'd said, hey, we've got the best entertainment in the entire world here. Check out all your options. Turned it open and there was Ted and Ted 2 and the rest of it. So.
Yeah, just Calvin Klein underwear ads. That's awesome. What are some things when people ask you that, aren't something that you can do?
Well, really, it always is basically the same request. And as much as we tell people, and it's important to know, we can do everything with the exception of anything that is not legally available. So for films that come out into the movie theaters immediately or maybe haven't come out at all, we've set the expectation so high that we can deliver things.
Yeah.
But anything that is not in the secondary market and on that basically through the iTunes, we cannot come up with that because that's
so they're asking for bootlegged or pirated movies.
I don't think that they necessarily know that. And I think a lot of times they realized, if Wicked came out on Friday and we get a request for it on Saturday, that it can't happen. But, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
Yeah.
But we make it very clear with people at all times that we cannot get movies, TV shows until they are legally released. And then we have licenses and they have it.
And I think we'll dig into kind of some more of that later. But why don't you, outside of getting every Mark Wahlberg underwear photo shoot on an iPad, why don't you give us an explanation of your background and your experience and what made you start Video Valet and what Video Valet is?
Sure. So I got into aviation accidentally. I do not have an aviation background. I cannot fly a plane. I have no business being on a podcast or anywhere else giving any information or recommendations on anything other than technology, entertainment, connectivity, and passenger experience and customer service. So I graduated with a degree in psychology and got out there and had a job for $6.25 an hour. But it was like the dawn of these computer games. So people had games like Oregon Trail and Reader Rabbit. There was no internet. There was no Wii, no Xbox. Kids had to ride their bikes or play educational games.
Yep.
So I immediately realized the power of the personal computer. This was the times where people didn't know how to use the mouse. And the parents were like, oh my God, my kids are going to grow up and not know how to use a computer because they don't have a mouse. So I became the computer teacher to the stars' kids.
Wow.
And through that referral and word of mouth, I got connected to a lot of high net worth individuals, great people, families, and I was, in their homes teaching them 2-3 times a week. I realized that it was going to be a lot less cute when I was 44 and their kids were on my lap than when I was 24.
Yeah.
So I was looking for an out ramp. And I had a client that I was teaching their son and said, we've got our private jet. You know about technology. We're going to put this new system on. It's supposed to be great. You can watch 100 movies up in the sky. It cost $1.7 million.
Just for that system at the time?
Just for that system. And I said, wait, run that number back again? And I said, I can save you $1.69 million. I can put what you want, what your wife wants, what your kids want. And the iPad had only come out a couple months earlier, but this has always been my background.
Yeah.
Is technology and making it simple and reliable. So the question was, will the iPad work at 40,000 feet? And of course, the answer is yes, you can watch your movie on an iPad. But at that point, they didn't believe me. They took me on the flight. And at that point, I thought, okay, this is a pretty nice way to go.
Yeah.
That person told a friend. That person told a friend.
Where was that first flight to? Do you remember?
It was out of Van Nuys, and it was a test flight.
Okay.
And what was really cool about it, and I still remember it, was that there were kids on the flight and parents, and the kids were so excited to have their favorite shows and their favorite movies all right there. They just clicked it, it popped up, and they kind of felt silly about this alternative. And from there, I've just seen how much money can be saved. And it's not about the money sometimes, but it is sort of mind-boggling about what a simple solution can be created, customized, curated for fraction of the cost.
To do a built-in system. Maybe you can break down, like, for the consumer that is say they're buying a used G550 and they're buying this airplane for, $18 or $20 million. What are their options for connectivity and entertainment on an airplane?
So a good amount has changed since I started this. I started this 13 years ago. This is all that myself and my team do. So there's a team of us. This is all that we do is focus on entertainment, connectivity, and making sure our clients have everything they want, limitless entertainment wherever they go. Yep. That is our tagline, and that is what we deliver. So when you purchase a $18 to $20 million jet or even a $70 million jet, it doesn't come with any entertainment set up. There's no entertainment. It is such an afterthought. And so
they basically come with screens. So they'll come with, depending on the airplane type, a screen, one or two screens on the back wall, and maybe some of them will have plug-in screens on the couches or the seats, and some of the new airplanes will have a flat screen TV in the couch that's very limited. But I think we were talking about the cost of that flat screen TV at one time. But
so we were on our
very basic.
Yeah, well, the thing is yes, there are screens.
Yes.
Many of them are analog screens from 21 years ago. There's no HDMI connectivity, right? So you're not getting an Apple TV on there.
Yeah.
There's the conversion to go from analog to digital is extremely expensive to anything that we would think about.
Yeah.
And so, even if let's say you have screens. Let's say you have that $800,000 screen on the 7500.
Yeah.
Well, the goal is to make your passengers happy.
Yeah. To
give them whatever it is that they want to watch, whenever they want to watch it, in the highest quality with 100% reliability.
So I buy a new
do that.
I buy a new 7500 from Bombardier.
Yes.
And they just shipped it from Montreal. It arrives at my ramp in Van Nuys, and I want to take a first flight. How do I get if I don't have video valet? How am I watching my favorite movies or television shows right now?
So the default approach seems to be throw a Roku stick or a Fire Stick or maybe an Apple TV. Some people, have a preference.
A $75 Roku stick.
Or $29 Roku
Roku stick.
Well, no, I've seen that.
On a $70 million airplane with an $800,000 television screen.
Dan, I sponsored Bombardier's safety standard, stand down, okay? And I saw it. This is what they were using. And I spoke to them and I showed them what we had created, which is a 100% reliable way of watching high-resolution content as well as live TV anywhere. And they were severely impressed because they're crossing their fingers every time they're flying, and we can talk about why that is. They've got clients who are trying to sell that $70 million plane, and their clients are saying, I want to watch the hockey game. And they're all just crossing their fingers every time. Will the hockey game continue to stream?
Yeah. But Bombardier and Gulfstream, they're not focused on entertainment. They're focused on the nuts and bolts of the airplane, right? They want to provide a good platform, but they're really not focused on the entertainment. That really comes down to the crew, right?
Well, I think that you're asking a great question, which is whose responsibility is it to make sure that the passengers and the owner can actually watch what they want, even if they don't know at the time of the purchase of the airplane what it is that they're going to want to watch?
Yeah.
And the answer there is a lot of this.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Sometimes it's a management company. Sometimes it's the chief pilot. Sometimes it's the director of maintenance. Sometimes it's the flight attendant, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have, and myself in particular, have been drawn in more and more into this. And what I appreciate, like, as I said, I don't know anything about how to fly a plane, how to, repair a plane, but I really know the ins and outs of connectivity, the issues regarding geofencing, and how to use what technology issues and entertainment is coming out. That's all that we do.
Yep.
So I was on a call several months ago with a DOM who absolutely had the best of intentions. No fault of his own, he didn't know how to use an Apple TV himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to set up his own internet. And so he's being asked these questions, and I was on these calls with Honeywell to discuss, because the expectation in the purchase of whether it's an $18 million or a $20 million plane or a $70 million plane, the expectation is if there's a game or a serious live news event that's going on or a red carpet award show, I want to be able to watch that live. And I happen to think that's a pretty reasonable request, especially if you're paying upwards of $40,000 per month for connectivity and internet.
Yep.
And so in these calls, I've realized that that there is a gaping lack of knowledge, and that there is just this niche which we're filling and continue to evolve. This is all we've been doing now for 8 years. I sold my first business to exclusively focus on this. Mm-hmm. And so, there's, in terms of who's doing it, I mean, there does not seem to be, it's like we're running a baseball team and you don't have a shortstop.
Yeah. It's kind of like the hot potato. They're just kind of throwing the hot potato around, and whoever it lands on, hopefully, I hope the director of maintenance can figure it out, or.
Yeah. And I think from my experience, and this is becoming more and more salient, is these owners and passengers are really getting irritated and angry.
Well, when you're spending that much money, you want the whole idea of private aviation is simplicity. It should be simple. You drive up to an airplane, you walk in, you turn your TV on, or you get handed the iPad, and it has your exact needs on it. That's the whole idea of private aviation, is that the simplicity and the customization tailored to you as an airplane owner or charter or fractional client, right? And to have those frustrations, I would be very frustrated if I just spent $80,000, not to mention $70 million on an airplane, and didn't have everything I wanted, right? And that's kind of what Video Valet is trying to fix. Can you break down to us the products and offerings that Video Valet offers to airplane owners and aircraft operators?
Sure, absolutely. So Video Valet exists as an extension of the crew to solve this very specific problem. And the first thing that we did is realize that because connectivity on aircraft is, up until recently, not reliable at all when it comes to streaming movies, or anything really streaming.
Yeah.
We came up with a system where we pre-downloaded all the new release movies and were able to remotely update content as soon as movies became available. So our clients are watching new release movies on their iPads or their screens on their bulkhead monitors every Tuesday and Friday as soon as they come out, without any effort on their behalf outside of plugging in a cable into their iPad, which we can then push.
At home or at their office?
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world, they have access to this.
Yeah.
So that's our first offering. All the movies that are available as soon as they come out, including custom requests.
Yeah.
It's not just movies, because as we go on and as we just focus exclusively, we learn, like probably most good businesses, we learn from our clients.
Yeah.
So our clients will say, look, we're going to Fashion Week. We're going to go to watch the Hermes runway show.
Yep.
And we'll say, okay. And on the way back, they'll be able to watch, and we'll push it remotely, that actual show as well as the other Fashion Week shows.
Wow.
So we've got fashion. Sports is a huge part of what we offer. But I think while we've developed this really reliable technology platform, because I agree with you, if you put that, you're paying that amount of money, you expect to get from A to B 100% of the time. You want the food to be perfect 100% of the time, but you know,
food, that's a tough one.
I've heard your podcast, Dan. We won't get you started on catering.
Hate catering. It's okay.
But you know what? You should be able to watch 100% of the time your Lakers game when you go, regardless of where you are.
Why can't people do that right now? So if they've got a brand new global, or even, let's say this actually transitions well into Starlink. So we've just installed Starlink on this airplane. Starlink costs what? I think if you do it directly from the manufacturer, it's what, 600,000 to 800,000, or you can get it from not from the manufacturer or Gulfstream, but 3 or 4 or whatever the quoting is. Right. So now I'm flying to Europe out of Los Angeles, and I want to watch the Lakers game. I've got connectivity everywhere now, right? At high speeds. What would happen that I would lose the Laker game, into my flight, right? Would that happen?
Yes, Dan, that would happen.
Why would that happen?
I will explain it to you.
Yeah, please.
So you see, Starlink is an amazing development for private aviation. It really is. And understanding technology, understanding bandwidth speeds, latency speeds, we now, with Starlink system, are getting the same speeds or very similar to what you're getting at your home.
And some even say better, right? Because your latency, you're a little bit closer to that satellite sometimes.
We may have to take a look at what's going on in your house. But the expectation is when you're at home, you buy a movie, you rent a movie, you go onto your Netflix, you're watching it, period, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
The difference between your home and that very expensive plane that you just bought, Dan, is that your home is not flying at 650 miles an hour at 43,000 feet across multiple time zones. And yet, the same devices that are being utilized at your home are simply, there's a belief that you can put that on an airplane that is going across, that is utilizing streaming services that are all based on location and where you're at.
Yeah.
So this is where geofencing comes in. It's geofencing. It just says that you'll be able to watch certain things in certain areas, and in other areas you will not be able to.
It comes down to licensing a lot of the time, right? A lot of like local show channels have specific licensing in specific areas.
Correct. I mean, the most obvious one, which we see happen often and is a great source of new business from frustrated customers, people want to watch the NFL playoffs, and they're flying back from Europe.
Yep.
Right? So they're turning on, let's say it's an Apple TV. They go to
YouTube TV,
because that's how perhaps a DOM or some well-intentioned person set it up. That's how they do it at home.
Yep.
They now go and says, sorry, you're not authorized to watch it in this area. Now, That's a buzzkill.
YouTube TV doesn't have the rights to this game in this area. That's kind of what happens.
It's really complex about how the licensing works, but I will say that the bottom line is if your location is coming in, if your device, your plane, and that's your device, is outside of the United States, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Additionally, and I'm speaking from firsthand experience again, it's all we do. We had a client 3 days ago, and they were just trying to watch Netflix, flying across the United States. They owned the content that they were trying to view. And they have our Video Valet live TV service.
Yep.
They simply couldn't get Netflix to work on their device. They texted us. In 45 seconds, we had up on our app exactly what they wanted to watch. And, you know, that's the kind of thing that we do every day. It's what we based our reputation on.
So how does the Video Valet solve that problem of the person that is flying back from Europe or around the world somewhere that wants to watch the game, but the licensing in that area or whatever the problem is won't work on their Roku stick or whatever it is? How does Video Valet solve that problem?
Well, we came up and invested a good amount of money and a lot of R&D. And what we realized is there used to be a product called the Sling Box.
Okay.
And it allowed you to what's called place shifting, to watch from one area and to now watch it in another area. It was discontinued because everybody was cutting the cords and so it no longer existed. So what we've done is we've built the same concept, but now to be able to allow for remote, all the channels, every thing that you might want to watch exclusively for you. So you're frustrated. What were you trying to watch, Joe? Joe, you're a Red Sox fan, I believe. Am I right?
I am a Red Sox fan, yes.
So seeing is believing. You agree with that?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to show you something.
Okay.
One of the things, you know, my parents always accused me of wasting way too much time watching sports.
Okay.
And nothing good will ever come from it.
Yeah.
And I proved them wrong because now when somebody says, I want to watch the
Red Sox spring
game,
training.
Yes, the Red Sox spring training. Here's how it works. This is our iPad. Here's our app for TV. So we can go ahead. You asked about our different levels of service. So these are all new release movies that are updated, again, every Tuesday. And you just click on something. You see something you might want to watch.
I mean, Moana. I know my kids would want to watch Moana.
Okay, your kids want to watch Moana. Pops up. We're ready to go live.
It's playing
100% of the time. And it sounds great. It looks great. It's the highest quality. So that was our original initial offer.
Yeah.
And for people who don't want to get Starlink, who maybe have that Hawker, that's great for them.
Yeah.
They no longer have to deal with Wi-Fi and their passengers are entertained.
Yeah, so I guess it works for with or without Wi-Fi, preloaded iPads, everything.
It's a total turnkey solution.
Yep.
Dan, we have 30 clients. We have 100% retention, which I'm so proud of.
Yeah, that's great.
Because the crew doesn't have to do anything, and we, you know, everybody has what they want, which is making them happy.
But I
ready for
want
your Red Sox.
I want my Red Sox.
All right, so I hit this TV. Now we have a box specifically set up for you. Now I can't do this myself. I'm going to have to use the magic of one of my team members.
How big's the team right now?
I think 40. The Red Sox you're talking about?
No. Your team.
Well, we have a lot of informal partners, but let me tell you, I have. First thing I got to do is get off of airplane mode.
I know, right? So, well, you did a good job of silencing the phone, so it's good.
Yes. Okay. Here we go.
Who are we calling now?
So I'm calling my boy at the office.
Let's put it up to the mic so that everyone can hear it.
I feel like this is like a David Letterman age. Hello. Jordan, you're live here on the Ironbird Podcast. Say hello.
Hey. Hello.
Jordan, we've got a beleaguered Red Sox fan who wants to go ahead and watch the Red Sox, I believe, are playing live on
spring training.
Training, is that right?
Yeah, that is correct.
But
Put that on our Ironbird demo box on special event number 2, if you would. And let me know when you've got it. And you know what? Let's torment him. Let's put the Yankees on special event 1.
Yeah, hopefully they're losing.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you know when that's done.
Okay. Well, thank you. We'll check it in a minute. So hopefully I'll be there. We're going to do it in real time. Thank you, Jordan.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So what's he doing now?
So you have, each client has their own Apple TV boxes or cable boxes. And we have a proprietary system. It's pretty complex, and we've got a patent pending on it.
Yep.
But essentially, he is remotely controlling the box that is stationary and not moving.
Yep.
So that your iPad or your bulkhead monitor simply becomes that monitor
Kind of
from
mirrors.
the box.
Yeah, so it has a direct connection to that box. And so how many stations can you do that between the box and the...
Well, we can, since we're remotely controlling
I've got 6 people in the airplane. They all want to watch different things. Can I watch...
We have a price package just for you.
I can watch 6 different things?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and what's unique about this, and again, with Starlink, it works so well. It really is making it just like it is
and
at
you
your
can
house.
and I can be on the airplane. I can text you or your team and say, hey, this show is on this channel, or this local Lakers game is on NBC One or whatever it is. I mean, spring training is probably on some random Fox Sports, Ocho or something, right? Yeah, isn't that like? But you have access to all those channels.
You're describing my job every single day.
Yeah,
and we have an amazing team. Our team is not large. I'm not looking for 1,000 clients. I'm really not, because when you tell a jet owner you can have whatever you want whenever you want, you want to limit it to a number that you can continue. Our goal is to continue to provide 100% service all the time.
Well, let's see. Do you think he's got it done?
I'm sure that he does. Let's go ahead. So this is a box. We click on it. Okay.
Oh, it's on immediately.
Yeah, it's on immediately. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
So this is live.
This is live.
Intentfully watching the whole time.
This is live, and here's your channels. So if you hit special event 1,
Yankees.
Boom, immediately.
Yankees are only up 6-0. And
Wow.
Now we have done this because it's a very specific market, but one of our great clients, this started because we work for the owner of the Atlanta Falcons and the Atlanta soccer team. He was unable to watch his own football team play in away stadiums.
Wow.
They had a blackout
When he was traveling.
when he was traveling.
Yeah.
So when you have it, there's a delay from the live to the broadcast. So there's a 12-second delay.
12 seconds.
Which is cool, because that means you can watch the game live.
Yeah.
And then you look down and you can see the replay.
Yeah.
Total blackout from the NFL. We implemented our system on a Sunday. He takes this into all of the...
And this is, obviously, you can plug it into your system's bulkheads, but if it also goes to your iPads, and then you take this iPad anywhere, right?
You literally have that same thing on your iPad, because we've set them up as demo.
Yeah.
You take this anywhere.
Yeah, on your airplane, to your yacht, to your villa, and
to your home. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not only the chief problem solver and owner and founder, but I'm probably the biggest user of this thing.
Yeah.
And I will take it to the pool.
Yeah.
And I will watch it, and we pair everything. We take care of the headphones. We take care of charging cables.
Yeah.
And I'm on there, and people want to watch, They're like, what is that? How are you watching the pay-per-view fight?
Yeah. And clients have different, but you're offering different levels of the service, right?
Correct.
So if someone just has maybe a Hawker 800 or a Citation XLS, and they don't need, 10 iPads, and maybe they just want, hey, I just need movies and shows for my kids or my charter clients. Like, how do you separate the different levels of the service, and what do people get from those different levels?
So we have 5 different levels that each solve a problem, right? One is a situation just like you described. It's a hawker. They don't want a huge outlay, and we've created a plan that's very affordable to get into.
Yeah.
It takes the iPads, and that's just movies. But
Yeah.
you're still getting these premium iPads.
Yeah.
We provide all of it. The licensing all belongs to the owner. And I think that's important to talk about.
Yeah.
So we're simply managers of content.
Yeah.
You, as this new jet owner, congratulations, Dan, you are the owner of the iPads, the content. We are simply providing a service for you.
Yeah.
If at the end of the contract you decide that, which has never happened, you no longer want this, you keep all of the content that's been provided.
Yeah.
We no longer purchase new movies. We no longer subscribe to all of the services.
Yeah. And the support.
And the support, precisely.
Yeah.
But because of that, we're not reselling anything. We're not redistributing anything. It belongs completely to you.
Yeah.
So we have a situation where people can just get new release movies.
Yep.
I mean, these movies are now coming out 3 to 4 weeks in the movie theater.
Yeah.
I mean, our clients aren't going to movie theaters because really on their trips,
Yeah.
this is really the time that they have.
Yeah.
So that is one solution. And then it's such a painful process for most people to try and remember what subscription is. You know, I want to watch Severance. I also want to watch Reacher, and I want to watch South Park, personal favorite. You know, how do I watch that? Well, it depends. If it's season, blah, blah, blah. So rather than doing that, we manage all of these subscriptions for everyone. So all they've got to do is click a button, and they've got
Severance.
Real
they've got-
Housewives
Yeah. A Beverly Hills.
popping up. Shot for Bravo. So they don't have to stream it. It's all been put on there.
So they don't have to go between Prime Video to Paramount Plus to Netflix to HBO Go or Max or whatever it is now. It's all centrally located in one system immediately for them.
Correct. So that's our first package is movies only. Then we've got movies in all of these streaming services that people have to set up. And that setting up of the streaming services, it's complicated to set up, but it's really painful to maintain.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people understand that. To get a Roku stick.
Forget a password or.
Well, you go from one place to another, right? And you have a Netflix login, and Netflix says, I need a 2-step authentication. And the 2-step authentication is connected to the mechanic who went ahead and did the install on the Starlink.
Yep.
And they don't know that. So that's one thing. The other thing that is probably the most important thing that we do that never gets talked about is security.
Okay.
So if you're bringing your own iPad, right, which I think a lot of people do,
Sure.
and you're streaming, you're connected to the internet, you have a device that has all of your personal information that's being shared on a network, and then somebody says, hey, what's the Netflix on here? Oh, it's D. Harris at Ironbird Podcast.
Yeah.
Right? And this happens often. It's such a hodgepodge. If you ask me who does it, it really does depend. I've seen mechanics. I'll give you a story that illustrates this. I went out to lunch with an installer, and he said, oh, you know, such and such. I said, oh, yeah, they were going to have our service, but I don't know what happened. They said, oh, we did it. We did the installation. I said, oh, are they happy? He says, every time he gets a new phone, I get a pop-up on my personal phone that says, are you going to allow Mr. Billionaire to go ahead and have access or not? And it gives him a code.
Wow.
Dan, somehow that is the norm,
Yeah.
not the exception. And that's what we are stepping into.
Yeah, and it's either it's to the pilot or the flight attendant or the director of maintenance that has that system. And then what happens when they leave? Or they find a new job, or they get pissed at the owner because they ask for a raise and the owner doesn't give them the raise. You know?
There's all kinds of reasons why people should not have owners and principals, private emails,
connectivity.
I mean,
so by separating this, how does that protect the principal?
So if somebody were to hack into this iPad,
Yep.
okay, or hack into we have a jet theater device that we also have, right? So this is on, let's say, a Starlink network, and let's say this iPad does get hacked into.
Mm-hmm.
All they're going to be able to do is watch a complete unknown.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to watch your Red Sox game or the Yankees. That's it.
Yep.
If they hack into your personal device or your personal device password is compromised, they now have access to the most sensitive information.
Your emails,
Yeah, and look, everybody thinks they're important.
Yep.
But on our clients, these are people who are purchasing private jets. They have information that really needs to be securely.
Yeah. And when they're traveling, that's when they can be a little bit more targets. When you're at your home, you probably are a little bit more insulated. When you're traveling, you're a little less insulated, and you open yourself up a little bit to more attacks potentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even, even taking iPads, for example, off the plane, again, there's nothing loose here. I've spoken to cybersecurity experts, and they talk about cyber hygiene, and they tell me, like, this is what you need to talk to people about, because IT teams that are protecting these individuals at their workplace are not aware of what's going on here on the plane.
Interesting.
So I can tell you, I know of one, it wasn't our client, but one sort of client adjacent account that they got hacked, and there was ransomware. Wow. And they extracted a lot of money. And so, it does happen. And having this exclusively as an entertainment system
protects the principal from that.
100%.
How are pilots currently setting up these systems? We talked about it a little bit, but I've seen some pretty, I don't want to say janky setups.
Yeah.
But I've seen a couple setups where I think the pilot or the director of maintenance is trying to do a good thing.
Correct.
They're trying to help the principal to set this up, maybe save them some money because there definitely are some of those still $1 million systems, right? They can put in the database or the local server on the airplane. And they're like, you know what? I've downloaded movies before, legally or maybe even illegally.
Right.
Let me go on your iPad and I'll put a Plex server on it, and I'll download these movies. Oh, you want the movie that's just in theaters? Oh, I can use, it's not Pirate Bay anymore, but I can use Pirate Bay, and I'm making my principal happy because I'm doing good things for him. But what could happen? What's the downside to that? Pilot or director of maintenance that are trying to go above and beyond for their principal. What's the downside to that?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that I have seen it, and it's shocking to me.
Yeah.
That individuals, many of whom are directly related to the entertainment business, have. I think you're right. I think people are always trying to be a hero.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of the times, people just say get it done, right? It's like that get it done type of request.
Hey, guess what? We did get wicked.
Yeah.
And, we've gotten on multiple accounts where they're watching movies on their previous system and the audio does not match up with the talking head.
Yeah.
And we look at the file names, and I'm talking about I'm going to mention names, but there are charter organizations that are hiring people to do this work.
Yep.
And the file names, everything here is purchased, licensed, exclusively to that individual.
Yeah.
They have names like wicked.1080p.piratebay / Blu-ray. And what is the potential exposure for breaking the law and having, I don't know the answer to that, except that I never would ever put myself or my team or my clients in any way that situation. And I don't think it's a viable option.
Yeah.
But to your point, Dan.
We see it, right?
Yeah, that's the problem, is that, pilots, DOMs, they're like, I do this at home.
Yeah.
But in this industry, you just why would
The
you
risk,
why would
the
you
risk
cut
reward.
why would you cut that corner?
Yeah.
And then what often does happen, and we hear this, is you know what, we did get wicked, but it turned out it was in German.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so we don't.
But the normal process now, and correct me if I'm wrong.
What do you think would happen, Dan? If that, I mean, I'm curious. You know a lot.
If they got caught illegally downloading your ISP, your internet service provider could shut down your IP address. And if they're using a corporate computer or it's connected to their specific airplane, I mean, they shut your IP address down. Obviously they can fine you or sue you, but I think shutting your IP is really you can't connect to the internet with this provider or this airplane again. That's really dangerous, I think, for that airplane and that IP address. But what they're doing right now, what most people are doing, crews are doing, it's basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, the flight attendant or the captain, they have 5 iPads for their Gulfstream. They're they're going one by one and they're buying on these different movies with maybe their corporate card. And then they're, signing up with either their own personal email address or their company email address, Netflix on the 5. And then they're going through and signing up, Prime Video and all, and they're trying to do all these things. What's the downside to that? And what could potentially happen? We talked about it a little bit, but when that person leaves, when there is a problem on board, what's the solve there? And that technically works, right?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that from our experience, nobody's happy. The only 2 categories of people with in-flight entertainment are people who are unhappy because they made a request 2 weeks ahead of schedule that said, make sure this playoff game is on.
Yeah.
And somebody's got a Roku stick. And as you see, our branding, the flight attendant community, they're the heroes in the back taking the abuse of these disappointed passengers and owners, and charter guests. So they're the ones who are really hearing it. And so we've built our business up to this point by showing flight attendants how to solve this problem. Because they're in the back.
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick story, quick anecdote.
Yeah.
What's the problem? The problem is you're going to have disappointed, upset passengers.
Yeah.
The other group is people who tell me, you know what, we have iPads and nobody uses them. And I'll say, well, let me see your iPads.
Yeah.
And they'll show me an iPad and it's all alphabetic. It does not look like this, right? We have, for example,
it's 4 or 5 versions old.
It's smaller, but the thing is that it doesn't look beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a random, alphabetically organized list of movies that you didn't want, that aren't new. It's like, how did anybody come up with this?
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. We had a somebody who signed up for service, and what brought them on, and what drives this customer? These experiences.
Yeah.
A very, very A-list passenger came on to a charter trip. Okay, I don't know if maybe they booked it through you, Dan.
I hope so.
They went on. Somebody through this charter company went ahead and they were doing their own iPads, just like you were suggesting.
Yep.
He gave him the iPad. This multi-time Oscar winner looked at the iPad, opened it up, closed the iPad, handed it back, and shook his head. Now, this is not a diva either. It's just, and this is what drives me and my team. We're very, very passionate. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
I'll tell you another.
What was the problem?
The problem was it was garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it's not that you don't have content.
Yeah.
Anybody can turn on anything at any time and have something to watch.
Yeah.
It's not what they wanted to watch.
Yeah.
On our iPads, we have everything available, all the new movies, all the hottest TV shows, live every channel that you would want if you have that package. And so, to go ahead and see that these probably got updated 18
6 months, a year ago, yeah.
Right? And then it looks, there's no rhyme or reason to how they're designed or developed. We have stand-up comedians on here.
Yep.
Like we've got like the 10 most current shows. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I will drop one name because I love these stories.
Yeah.
And it's what it's one of the things we love most about Video Valet. So Boris Johnson was traveling with one of our flight attendants.
Okay.
So one of our owners has the iPads. They use them for their charter guests. Boris Johnson was on there. Boris, if you're listening, sorry to share this.
I know he is a listener, so.
Okay, good. His security started to get uncomfortable because he was watching one of our iPads and laughing out loud the entire trip. Why? Because we had the funniest things that have ever been done out there. And they said, we've never seen him laugh like this.
All the most best stand-up specials.
Dan, it just, when you watch that show that makes you happy, you are happy.
How can I understand the amount of content that you can put on these iPads? Because how big are they?
Well, we utilize the highest amount of storage space, right?
Which is what?
Well, currently it's 2 terabytes on our iPads. We also have a product called the Jet Theater, which is specifically set up to get 4K content into that $800,000.
Yeah, not your $30 Roku stick.
No, it's not the $30 Roku stick. In fact, it's beautiful 4K HD
and that's like
and that
with the Roku
8 terabytes.
With the Roku stick, you're streaming. You need the Wi-Fi. With the what was it called?
So we have our Jet Theater.
With the Jet Theater, is that streaming or is that local? You've got
all
local,
and it fixes. It has local, and this is an invention that we've got another patent pending on. So it's got all of the new release movies that we can push instantly to. And then it also has live TV connecting to your specific boxes so that when you get the call, I'll give you,
Well, I'm really wondering, 2 terabytes, 8 terabytes. What does that mean
like
with
500 movies?
That's wild.
500 movies or 2,000 movies on our Jet Theater.
Wow.
But it's not the 500 movies. It's what is the 500 movies?
Yeah.
How are they laid out?
So how do you curate them?
Well, first of all,
Same for everybody?
it depends on the package, right?
Okay.
But as a baseline, we have the same for everybody, but we get every major new movie as soon as it comes out, right?
What if I want maybe different special movies? Can you do that for clients?
Yes. I'll give you an example of the kinds of things that we do. So another one of our clients was a huge conservationist, right? He owns a huge amount of property in Montana. Got a request. Before it comes to us, it's going to the estate manager, it's going to the assistant, it's going to the IT team, then it lands on our desk, right? So he wanted to watch a specific movie, and I looked at it. It was, of course, I said yes. Then I realized it was in 2 theaters, both IMAXs, one in Alaska and one in Montana. But this was what's unique about us in doing it and not ever saying giving up. I contacted the distributor, and I found the distributor, and I explained who our client was, and he said, no problem, we'll get you on Monday a copy of the movie. And I went, oh my God, Video Valet. And then guess what he said, Dan?
What?
No, we're leaving tomorrow. Thank you, but I need it now. So I texted the guy again, and he said, okay, now it's going to be on 3 screens. Those 2 and your client's screen. And then we put the 2 people together, and they actually ended up doing a documentary for him.
Wow.
And, I have many, many, many stories like that.
So it's not just, the company's not just putting movies on an iPad.
No.
It's the service that, Video Valet provides for these clients?
100%. It's genuinely limitless entertainment.
Yeah.
Wherever you go.
Yeah.
We've got one client who loves those Vision Pros, and he watches the movies and his passengers want it. And before it gives you a headache,
the 3D Meta goggles.
Yes. So those are ones from Apple that are like
the Apple ones.
The Apple ones. Yeah. For the hour before you get a headache, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And for certain people love to watch it that way. So we do all of those kinds of things. The business, more than anything, is constantly evolving.
Yeah. And who are some of your biggest proponents of like the system? And
I mean, our clients and the crews are 100% the biggest proponents. And the closer you are to the experience, the more you recognize the value and the difference that this makes.
Yeah.
So that's why the flight attendants have been so incredibly valuable, because they're sharing the stories.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows. That DOM doesn't know how happy or unhappy the client probably was.
Yeah.
But the flight attendant does. So we've been, building these amazing strategic partnerships with like-minded people who are really care about and are passionate about elevating the passenger experience. I know one of your guests is a good friend, Jamie Gibson of Flightus.
Shout out to Jamie.
Shout out to Jamie.
Yeah.
And she's all about the same, thing, is really creating these passenger experiences. And happy passengers.
Yeah.
And I that's really the whole
That's what it's all about, right?
It really is all about happy passengers.
Yeah.
And I can say with genuine 100% certainty that the aircrafts and the teams, the crews that have Video Valet service have happier passengers than those without. And the need for this gap is only getting wider and wider as people are getting error messages like, sorry, you're unable to watch this, or what's the two-step?
Yeah. What kind of involvement do you have in that flight attendant community?
We love the flight attendants. Yeah, we're very fond of the flight attendants, and in all sincerity, Video Valet would never have succeeded without, without the advocacy of the flight attendants.
Yeah, and outside of Jamie, anything else that you are doing to stay like involved and helping that community?
Absolutely. We're a sponsor. There's another wonderful crew member that we work with, Holly Schroeder, who's putting together a retreat that we're sponsoring. It's a very close knit community, and they're really, we're really kindred spirits with the flight attendants. We care so deeply about making the passengers happy. We become very close to one another, and unfortunately, recently the flight attendant community had a very tragic loss of Ron Agrari, who we'd worked on his account for about 12 years.
Yep.
And that was been really crushing. And
long time Clay Lacy employee, and you don't find, sometimes 12 years is a long time to be on an airplane in the same crew. I mean,
you ever made a guest cry on Ironbird Podcast?
No, I don't know.
Well, we're
it's a beloved,
and I spoke with his partner, and Video Valet is taking the initiative. We're going to be starting the Ron Agrari Memorial Scholarship Foundation to do his work and try and keep his memory and the things that he stands for. Really an amazing, wonderful person who touched everyone that he was with. So we're really proud to do that, and excited if anybody's interested in learning more about that. Love to reach out and contact Video Valet or
what. Yeah, will you let the listeners know what is, if they want to learn more about the stuff you're doing for Ron, or even like your services and your packages and more about, what you offer, what's the best way for someone to get in contact with you?
So one of the reasons I don't want a huge team, there's less than 10 of us, is because I want to know my clients.
Yeah.
And I want to know my employees, and having rock star employees is really, really hard. My business belief is that, as our culture, the employees are more important than our clients. The only thing more important.
Yeah.
We have to take care of them.
Yeah.
So that's why we keep it very small. And I've had the same chief engineer for 20 years, believe it or not. And Amy McIntosh, our vice president, has been with me for 9 years now. You call me.
Yeah.
You call Amy. You can certainly text us, but that's how you can communicate. You can certainly send us an email. Or go to the website, videovalet.com.
Yep.
310-722-5988. If anybody has any questions about, should I do this? Am I really getting the full story on connectivity? Why did I get this error message? Will you please talk to my DOM? I heard you on Dan Harris's podcast, and he doesn't completely understand. You can reach out to me. I love talking about this and educating people, because at the end of the day, we get clients who go, thank you so much. And it's not about the clients. It's really about the crews.
Yeah. Why don't you break down the range of pricing so people understand like where kind of the low end is from a pricing standpoint? You don't have to give exact numbers, but kind of range of where the low end is versus the high end of the onboard systems.
Compared to everything else,
like
it's a rounding error.
What's Wi-Fi cost a month?
Let me just start by saying this, because I didn't believe it, and I've seen a lot in aviation, right? But we've got our clients do charter, right? Their planes go down, they take their iPads with them, and they charter, and they have all the content, right? So, and we're there to service and assist them to make sure that they're still getting all the brand new content. They're watching a show, they're going to have last night's episode, even if they leave in the morning, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We're down for the challenge, and we deliver. I had a flight attendant send me a price sheet on a major charter company. If we didn't download it and they wanted to stream a movie, if they wanted to stream A Complete Unknown, okay, it's $8 a megabyte. That doesn't sound like much, does it?
$8. Well, how many megabytes could a movie be?
Well, let's say that a gigabyte is 1,000. So what's $8,000 a gigabyte?
Okay.
So if a movie is 4 gigabytes, and it is,
Jeez.
it's $32,000. Now,
just to stream it, because you're on your way to Hawaii?
Because somebody is price gouging you.
Yeah.
And I do not like price gougery. I will fight against it, especially for our clients or people who are good people and that are just taking advantage of it at that point.
That doesn't include when you get your $500,000 Starlink install, and then you're paying another $40,000 a month for your connectivity.
Now
right?
Starlink is such a disruptor, but yes, it's $40,000 is an upper tier plan on KA.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe the prices are coming down to Starlink's competition.
Yeah.
If you do not want Wi-Fi and you want to give, I mean, we haven't even talked about the kids who, without these iPads, start drawing on an airplane. That's happened before.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many nightmare stories of flight attendants who have had to go ahead and try and manage these kids for long flights.
I know.
These are wonderful babysitters.
Their flight attendants are the real champions, especially when flying with kids. So God bless them.
I mean, I don't know if you know anything about kids and them wanting to fly without their content.
It's hard. Yeah. And I'm not a big, we try and do as little screens as possible, except when we're flying.
Exactly. And by the way, I agree with you. Yeah. I'm not a champion of throw this toddler, Miss Rachel, constantly. Yeah. But boy, when you got two of them, I know, and one's crying and the other one is Miss Rachel comes in handy, and the dancing veggies. Yeah. So compared to that, we've got a package that starts at $2,000 per month.
Yeah.
That includes all of the licensed content, all of the service, and us going ahead and updating all the new release movies as soon as they become available.
Yep. And then what's the top end of the service with everything? You get everything live stream. Someone can call the phone call that we just had. Someone can make that phone call and get the Red Sox game.
Right. So we have packages depending upon, there's customized things.
Yeah.
But in terms of the live TV, we have a live TV solution for $5,000. What that means is that when you ask for the game, when you want to watch live CNN, when you want to watch live Fox, whatever you want to watch, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
You want to watch the Red Sox, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
So what's that cost? It's $5,000 a month.
Okay. That's great.
And that's for all
and what's the everything, absolute insane amount of entertainment, anything everywhere you've ever seen? So what's the highest end that people can?
So the highest end. Now let's just take a look at that. So you can buy Starlink for $10,000 and actually have all of the subscriptions managed, right? So there's all these other costs you never see. That's all in there. The
Netflix subscription, all these, and purchasing of every movie, what costs $30 every movie. Yep.
All that's been built in, right?
Yeah.
So for $15,000, you can get Starlink and Video Valet and have everything.
Yeah.
And some guy who's on record on a podcast saying he's going to guarantee that it's going to work anywhere in the world. Not any podcast, the Ironbird Podcast.
Yep.
And versus spending $40,000 and nobody really with any degree of expertise and no fault of their own.
Yeah.
They just it wasn't in their job description when they came into this, and it probably isn't. So that's the way, commonsensically, I think. Okay, $15,000, you can stream everything, and it's going to work, and you got support. I will say, the common knock on Starlink is that they don't offer support.
Oh, really?
That is what I've heard, right?
Yeah. But they don't want to support your Roku stick, right?
Well,
that's not their problem.
Nobody's supporting the Roku stick.
Yeah.
Nobody's supporting the Roku stick. We will.
Yeah.
So if you get Starlink and the Video Valet package, now you've got that support. Now you've got the expertise. I poached the best guy I've ever seen from Best Buy. He was on the Magnolia end. Mm-hmm. And I finally said to him 4 years ago, how come you're not working for me? He goes, you've never offered to match my salary. I said, what do you make? He was working for me 2 weeks later, and he's our chief technician. He's on these new planes, and he is fixing Bluetooth issues.
Wow.
He's fixing things totally unrelated.
So you've got a whole technical support team almost along.
Not
just entertainment. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've built everything out. We have 24/7 custom support. We've got the guys figuring out what sports you want. I've got a chief design officer who makes sure that it's going to look luxurious and can be branded to the interior. So
if I can put you on the spot, if you were to give the 30-second elevator pitch of what Video Valet is, what would you say it is? Like, what would be your 30-second? What's your 30-second elevator pitch?
Video Valet offers limitless entertainment wherever you go. Whatever you want on the plane, off the plane, you have access to people who care a lot, who've done this and do nothing but this, so that you can watch any movie, any TV show at the touch of a button that's actually going to work with live TV, sports, and evolving constantly in the future. Next time Apple throws a curveball that's going to take down whatever situation that you have set up, we're already 2 steps ahead of that, figuring out how everything's going to work. And it's going to make your passengers, your clients, and your crew so much happier and take away so much work.
Awesome. Eric, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on here.
Thank you, Dan. Oh, a pleasure.